The square in which they gathered was once a slave market. Many of the slaves that made Leptis Magna and Rome's other African cities rich came from Gadames. Most sold right here in this square. And these guys are the descendants of the people who brought them to be sold here, the Tuareg. These nomads controlled the North African slave trade right up until the end of the 19th century. And if their music sounds familiar, there's a reason. The blues weren't born in Mississippi, they were born in Africa and taken to America by slaves the Tuareg sold. The Tuareg may no longer deal in slaves, but they're as fiercely independent as ever. Now, as in Roman times, anyone who travels further south than Gadames has to enter their territory on their terms. The next leg of our journey, across the uncharted wasteland the Tuareg call home, starts tomorrow. But not before we witness a meeting of these fearsome warrior clans. Following in the 2,000-year-old chariot tracks of the Roman army across the Sahara is not something to be taken lightly, even on Libya's good sealed roads. The next leg of our journey takes us from Gadames in northwestern Libya to the oasis of Gabron on our way to the Caucasus Mountains. This is the land of Africa's last nomadic warriors, the Tuareg, and we're on the way to a wedding. I've read that women in Libya get married quite late, during their 30s and sometimes in their 40s. Why is that?
Yeah, you know, the problem here because the wedding, it costs too much money, you know.
Really?
Yes.
So what about you? Do you have a boyfriend?
I had an engagement before, but now we finished. But sometimes you feel that you can live with someone like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that happens. That happens
It
in the
happens,
West.
yeah.
I'm still unmarried, you know.
Really?
Yeah, so I too. I travel too much, but it's the same. You've got to find the right person.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Tuareg territories cover a vast area of the Central Sahara and spread across the borders of Libya, Mauritania, Niger, Algeria, and Mali. And because of strategic alliances between the great clans, they can cover great distances to attend intertribal events. On the outskirts of Gadames, we've been invited to attend one such meeting of the clans at a wedding. At the start, the men and the women are separated, the men waiting for the women to prepare the nuptial tent. Dressed in indigo robes, the groom patiently waits, betraying no wedding day butterflies or doubts. Do you know which one is the bride?
I think the white one.
In white?
Yeah.
Kind of the purpley
Colours,
white,
yeah.
okay. It's very hard to tell. As the tent is built, we watch from a respectful distance. It's both unusual and a great honour to be allowed to witness such a ceremony. The groom and his entourage are the first to slowly make their way to the tent, singing prayers for the blessing of the union. Next comes the bride. Hidden from sight under her wedding robes, it may look like she's entering the union as the subjugated partner, but that's far from the truth. Despite the almost legendary warrior reputation of Tuareg men, Tuareg society is matrilineal. Women own the family tents. Only women are allowed to learn and write the Tuareg language, and all hereditary rights are passed to the firstborn daughter. And as the party goes on into the night, our thoughts drift to the next leg of the journey. Naji has located a desert guide and some vehicles. Our next stop is Garama, Libya's desert Atlantis. This is Mansour, and he's been learning his craft since he could walk.
You know, to me, out here, it looks all the same. I mean, how do you and the other drivers navigate? How do you know which way to go?
I started with a Tuareg guide, you know, going with me all the time, and then I learned my own way, and I can do it so easy now.
This is an unforgiving place. Few can survive here, let alone live here.
Well, you need to have another car to travel with.
So you always have to travel with more than one car.
Definitely, yeah.
Has anything ever happened to you? You've been stuck out here?
Yeah, I've been stuck out once. I had to wait for 2 days almost until another car passed around.
200 miles deeper into the desert, at the oasis of Saba, is one of the largest camel markets in North Africa. At any one time, there are upwards of 25,000 camels here, most of them from Sudan. Traditionally, this market supplied the beasts of burden for the great camel caravans that crisscrossed the Sahara. Today, though, most of these animals will be sold for meat.
About 3 months.
We've stopped here to replenish supplies, and not surprisingly, Najat quickly becomes something of a curiosity. Muhammad Ali's been buying and selling camels here since he was a boy. He's made the 3-month trip from Khartoum more than 40 times, and yet he's never seen an uncovered woman from Tripoli here before.
هذا يبدأ ضامر ورورة يعني وروارة احنا نقولوا ورورة أيوة.
That means he's showing to you that he's a little bit angry.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, like a man when they argument between each others.
Yeah.
Yes, fighting. Yeah.
جملة والله بالفرد والله بجملة.
Another herd's just come in. Muhammad Ali knows to the last pound of flesh what they're worth. On the other hand, the seller knows what he wants. It's time to hang. What did they say?
There's some argument between each other, and this one he said that he's the part of the king of the camels, and this one is the part of the rabsh of the camel. Yeah. They try to.
So one says it's very good and the other
Yes,
says
that
very
one
bad.
he said it's very bad, and this is the part of their job. You know, they are really very exciting.
Well, I think it's a part of Africa, you know, the bargain and the deal and loving to argue and haggle, you know,
Yeah.
because they're all absolutely enjoying themselves.
And they are very happy now.
Eventually, the deal's done, and I suspect Muhammad Ali's got the price he wanted. It's a timeless scene, and one that could easily have been witnessed by any charioteers that came this way in Roman times. Tonight's camp is at the charioteers' equivalent of the truck stop, the oasis of Gabron. one of a handful of life-giving lakes that stretch across the desert. These oases were most likely what made it possible for chariots to cross this harsh and hostile world. Tomorrow, I discover what little remains of an all but forgotten civilization as I enter Libya's desert Atlantis. Waking up in the idyllic oasis of Gabron, you'd be forgiven for thinking you were in some earthly paradise, rather than deep in the Libyan Sahara. My journey in the tracks of the chariots has taken me from Gadames to Gabron. Next stop, Gurma, the site of a long-forgotten city. My translator, Najat, is experiencing camping in the desert for the first time. Good morning.
Good morning.
Some tea for you.
Thank you.
Every morning you look like you just walked out of a beauty salon, and I'm all beard and,
Isn't it?
Yeah. What time do you must get up at 5 o'clock to start?
No.
No?
No.
Really?
Please. Come on. Takes only 15 minutes, not more.
How did you sleep?
I did not sleep well yesterday.
Yeah.
Every 10 minutes walking up for the wind.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think I got about 4 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe that.
Yeah.
In one stretch. In these modern-day four-wheel drive chariots, with wide, slightly deflated tyres and powerful engines, great distances can be covered quickly in relative comfort. But could traditional chariots with wooden wheels have really negotiated these dunes? And where would the drivers have found the food to feed their horses? What's likely is that for much of the time they didn't have to travel across the dunes because they could travel down these. They're called wadis. This is the Wadi al-Hayat, which actually means the Valley of Life. Wadis are hard-packed valleys, which could possibly have supported the chariots and their crude wheels. More important, perhaps, is the fact that this valley once ran through the centre of an empire that spread across 70,000 square miles of desert. Now, for 3,000 years, people have been living in these, and not just nomads, but actual cities. This was a real civilization right in the middle of the Sahara. This is the land of the Garamantes, and today the secrets of their world are being revealed by a combined team of archaeologists from Britain and Libya who are excavating the Garamantians' capital, Garama, a desert Atlantis that's lain buried by the shifting sands of the Sahara for centuries. Team leader is Professor David Mattingly,